to the JP Dondero Genealogy channel on YouTube. I'm Jennifer Dondero. Today my video series continues with Beyond the Lineage. Briefly, we'll learn what other information you need for your patriot ancestor besides your lineage to him or her. Keep in mind throughout this series that the information is aimed at people who have done research already. I won't be discussing the basics of genealogical research. First, a little bit about my experience. I've been doing genealogy for over 20 years and working as a professional genealogist since 2005. Before I started JP Dondero Genealogy, I worked at the DAR as a genealogist verifying membership applications. Thanks to that experience, I now take clients who need help preparing their Lineage Society application or supplementals. This video is just an overview of what you need beyond the lineage. We'll get into more detail in other videos. We'll first look at how a DAR application is laid out and what goes on it besides lineage. Let's get started. This is the mostly blank first page of a DAR application. You can see it is legal size, so let's quickly look at what is on this page before we zoom in. There are essentially two sections. At the top is the applicant's information. At the bottom are signatures and other administrative sections. In this video series, we won't be concerned with the bottom half of this page, so let's take a closer look at the top. I said this was a mostly blank application. This is what page 1 looks like when I prepare and send an application to a client. All I have filled out is the name of the patriot ancestor. So let's move on to page 2. Page 2 is your lineage. Page 3 is where you put the sources for the lineage on page 2. We'll look more closely at this another time. Page 4 is where you really begin to go beyond the lineage. This is where many genealogists get confused. Before we talk about the information that goes on this page, I want to point something out to help you avoid confusion later. These two pages are both page 4, but the format was recently updated. All that has changed is the location of the information. As with page 1, the page can be thought of as a top half and a bottom half. One half has the patriot ancestor service information. The other half has family information. The format of DAR applications has changed over time, but the same types of information are always requested. We'll look more closely at the most recent form. The family information on page 4 is really just an extension of the lineage. Despite the amount of space given, there are really just two pieces of information requested in this section. First is spouse and marriage information. All spouse information is optional, but if you put this information on page 2, you should at least copy the identical information onto page 4. Next is the information on the child or children of the patriot. You should copy what you put on page 2 exactly. The child your lineage goes through is required, but that is all. There are a few other optional items on this page which we'll look at in the next video. Right now, let's go beyond the lineage and look at the service section of the application. On this newest form, the service information has been moved to the top of page 4. This highlights how important this non-lineage information is. Service can be complicated as it isn't really genealogy or even history. It is defined by the DAR. Because this isn't necessarily straightforward, we'll spend several videos looking at the specifics related to DAR acceptable service. As an overview, we'll simply look at what is requested on the application. This is the Ancestors Service section of page 4 again. Let's walk through what information is required. The first blank asks for the patriot ancestor's name again. The next blank asks for his or her residence during the Revolution. The next blank is for his or her type of service. Next is who he served for. This may or may not be the same as his residence. Once again, we'll look at specifics in another video. Next is the ancestor number. This is sort of like a social security number for patriot ancestors. It isn't required and only exists for established patriots. The next space is the description of the ancestor service. Although more detailed than the type of service, this is still formulaic. Established patriots have a set description of their service, and new ancestors will have a similarly brief description created. The last piece of information for the ancestor's service section is the source for his service. Next time, we'll start looking more closely at the requirements related to service. This has been Joining the DAR for Genealogists Beyond the Lineage. I'm Jennifer Dondero for JP Dondero Genealogy.